Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be learning about how to factor trinomials when a is not equal to 1. Let's get started. If you recall from last time, we had to follow this set of guidelines if we wanted to factor a trinomial when a was equal to 1. Ax squared plus bx plus c could be equal to x plus m times x plus n if m times n was equal to c and m plus n was equal to b. Now, when our a is not equal to 1, things get a little bit different. Let's start off with an example to explain this better. Let's say we have the polynomial 3x squared plus 8x plus 4, and we were asked to factor this. So if we tried to factor this, our m and our n multiplied should still equal c, but our m plus n isn't going to be equal to b because of this 3 that is in front of the a. So how would we go about factoring this? Well, there's a list of steps that one must follow to factor a trinomial when a is equal to 1. The first thing we would have to do is, if our a value is negative, then we need to factor that out. Our next step would be to factor out the greatest common factor in all three of the terms. Our third step is to look at the signs to figure out where the signs are going to go when we factor. And our fourth step is quite vague, and it's just to guess and check the rest of the way. This is going to be through FOIL. We'll get to that in a second. So these are our steps to factor a polynomial when a is not equal to 1. So let's review all of this together. When a is not equal to 1, you follow these steps. Ax squared plus bx plus c could be equal to x plus m times x plus n if m times n is equal to c. But m plus n does not have to be equal to b, so we're going to take that part out. So now, using the knowledge that we have, let's try to factor our first polynomial that I had written out here. 3x squared plus 8x plus 4. Our first step should be to factor out the negative from the a value. So basically, if our a value is negative, we need to factor that negative out. Looking at our polynomial, our a value is not negative, so we can skip step 1. Number 2 is to factor out the greatest common factor of the terms. I'm looking at the terms, and the factors of 3 are 1 and 3, the factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8, and the factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4. We can't factor out anything from here because all three of the terms don't have a common factor other than 1. So if this 3 was a 6 instead, we would be able to factor out 2 because all three numbers are divisible by 2. But the only numbers that all three of these are divisible by is 1, and there's no point in just factoring out a 1. So we can also skip step 2. Step 3 is to look at the signs. So we have a positive and a positive. So two positives mean that our signs inside of this, so it's going to be something x plus a number. And then this is also going to be something x plus a number. So these signs in the middle are going to be pluses because both of these are also pluses. And you can go back to my last video to see in detail how we know this. So now that we've figured out what signs are going to be in the middle, we have to now guess and check. So when guessing and checking, we have to keep one thing in mind, and that is FOIL. So FOIL standing for first, outside, inside, and last. So FOIL is useful because when you multiply the first terms of these two, you should expect to get your a value. And when you multiply the outside terms, so this and this, and multiply the inside terms, that, and add them together, you should expect to get your b value. And when you multiply your last terms, you should expect to get your c values. So basically, we reverse FOIL our way into factoring this together. Let's start off with f. So if we multiply this term and this term, we should get 3x squared. So what could possibly go in front of our x's that would give us 3x squared? Well, the only things that could go there are 3 and 1. 3x times 1x would give us 3x squared. So we know these two terms now. So now let's go to last. Which two combinations where we multiply the last two to get 4? So what times what could equal 4? Now in this one we have two possibilities. 2 times 2 equals 4. And 1 times 4 equals 4. But we also have to take into account that since these numbers in front aren't the same, we could also do 4 and 1. Inputting 1 and 4 and inputting 4 and 1 would give us two different answers. We'll see more when we check them all later. So these are our possible cases for what could go inside this blank and this blank. So now this is where the guess and check part comes in. You plug in each of these, FOIL it out, and see if you get what you want up here. So let's start with 4 and 1. We'll input 4 and we'll input 1. So we'll factor this out. 3x squared plus 3x plus 4 times 1x, which is 4x, plus 4 times 1, which is 4. Now simplified, this gives us 3x squared plus 7x plus 4. But that is not equal to what we wanted up there, which was 3x squared plus 8x plus 4. Instead of 8x, we have 7x. So we know that 4 and 1 aren't what go into those blanks. Now let's try 1 and 4. So 3x times x gives us 3x squared. 3x times 4 gives us 12x. 1 times x gives us just x. And 1 times 4 gives us 4. Combining like terms, this gives us 3x squared plus 13x plus 4. Again, the b value isn't what we wanted it. That one's 8x and this one is 13x. So we know that 1 and 4 can't be it. Notice how these two are the same numbers, but because we inputted it in different places and our a value wasn't 1, we did get different answers. So that's something we have to watch out for. Now let's try 2 and 2. 3 times x gives us 3x squared. 3x times 2 gives us 6x. 2 times x gives us 2x. And 2 times 2 gives us 4. Now we combine like terms and we have 3x squared plus 8x plus 4, which is the same as our original polynomial. So we know that our answer is going to be 3x plus 2 times x plus 2. That's our final answer. Now let's go ahead and try another one. Now we have 2x squared plus 13x minus 7. So remember, the first thing we need to do is see if there is a negative in the a value, which there is not, so we skip step 1. Number 2 is factoring out the GCF of the terms. Looking here, I don't see a number that could be divisible by all 3 of the terms, so we can also skip step 2. Step 3 is to look at the signs to figure out where which sign goes. Now looking at the signs, we know that one's positive and one is negative. When we have something like that, we don't write out the signs because they can switch from place to place. So we're just going to leave it empty. Our next step is to guess and check, and we're going to do that using FOIL. So we go to FOIL and we go to the f. This term times this term should be equal to 2. So the only way we can multiply and get 2 is with 2 and 1. So those are going to be our first 2. Next, we look at our last term. So this times this should equal negative 7. So what times what can equal negative 7? There are a few possibilities. we could have -1 and 7, or we could have 1 and -7. But remember, since a isn't equal to 1, we need to make sure we're also checking the flip side of these, or 7 and -1, or we're doing -7 and 1. Remember, when a isn't equal to 1, order matters. So these are our 4 possibilities. So we need to go through and guess and check with all of these. So let's start from the bottom. -7 and +1. Now let's factor out and check. So 2x times x is going to give us 2x squared, and then 2x times 1 gives us 2x. -7 times x gives us -7x, and -7 times 1 gives us -7. Combined, this gives us 2x squared minus 5x minus 7, which is not the same as 2x squared plus 13 minus 7x. So this isn't our answer. Now let's try 7 and -1. So 2x times x gives us 2x squared, and then 2x times -1 gives us -2x, and then 7 times x gives us plus 7x, and 7 times -1 gives us -7. Combined, this gives us 2x squared plus 5x minus 7, which is not the same as 2x squared plus 13x minus 7, so we know that's also not our answer. Now let's try 1 and -7. 2x times x gives us 2x squared, 2x times -7 gives us -14, 1 times x gives us just x, and 1 times -7 gives us -7. So 2x squared minus 13x minus 7 would be our answer, but this is minus 13x, not plus 13x. So this is also not our answer. Let's try our last one, -1 and +7. So 2x times x gives us 2x squared, 2x times 7 gives us plus 14x, -1 times x gives us -x, and -1 times 7 gives us -7. Combined, this gives us 2x squared plus 13x minus 7, which is the same as our original one. So we know our answer is 2x minus 1 times x plus 7. So for this one, we have minus 6x minus 13x minus 6. So we look at our steps. First one is to factor out the negative from the a value. This one does have a negative a value, so we're going to go ahead and factor that out. Basically, what we mean by that is just switching all of the signs in our polynomial. So you take out the negative, and you put that outside, and you write the polynomial inside. So that would be 6x squared, and since we're switching all the signs, this would be plus 13x, and this would be plus 6. Our next step would be to factor out the greatest common factor of the terms. Looking here, I don't think there is a number other than 1 that can divide all 3 of these. So we can skip step 2. Now we have to look at our signs for the polynomial and figure out how our factors are going to be set up. So now looking at the polynomial, I can tell that we're first going to have a negative here because you always need to keep that negative there. And then we're going to have something times x, and we're going to have an addition symbol. And then the next one is also going to be something times x with an addition symbol. So both of the insides are going to be pluses. Now over here, our first term and our first term multiplied should be equal to 6. But this time, we have 2 different ways to get 6. You could have 2 and 3, or you could have 1 and 6. Either or. So what do we do in this situation? Well, we would have to go through and we would have to plug in both and check them with our last terms here. So for right now, you would just choose one and you would roll with that for now. And then if you check all of the possibilities with the last, and you still don't get the same answer, then you go through and you check the possibilities with the 2 and the 3. So right now I'm choosing 6 and 1. So I'm going to keep those two there. Now what we have to do next is go to last and figure out this times this should also be equal to 6. So for this one, we could have 2 and 3. And remember, since a isn't equal to 1, it could also be flipped around as 3 and 2. Or we could have 1 and 6, or 6 and 1. So these are our possibilities for C. So I'm going to start off by plugging them in one at a time, starting from the bottom. So we're going to start with 6 and 1. So let's check. So we're going to have 6x times x is going to give us 6x squared. 6x times 1 gives us plus 6x. 6x times 1x is also going to give us 6x. And now I'm going to stop right here. To make this go faster, what you could do is stop right after you multiply out both the outside and the inside terms. And this is just to check if your b value is the same, because that's what we're checking for here. Everything else will already give us a 6x squared in the beginning and a 6 at the end, no matter what combination of this or this that we plug in. So all we're really checking is if that b value is the same. So I stopped right here to check if our b value would be the same. 6x plus 6x gives us 12x, so that already tells us our b value isn't going to be the same. So we know that 6 and 1 can't be it. So we're going to go on to the next one. Since we have nothing else to guess and check with, we can cross out the 6 and the 1. Now we have to go and redo everything with the 2 and the 3. So I'm going to start from the top this time. So I'm going to put 2 and 3. So we already know we're going to have our 6x squared, and then we do outside. 2x times 3 is 6x, and 2x times 3 is also 6x. We stop here, add it together, and we get 12x, which is not 13x. So we know 2 and 3 aren't it. Now we go on and we try 3 and 2. 3 and 2. So we already know we have our 6x squared. So we're going to do outside, which is 2x times 2 is 4x. And inside, which is 3x times 3 is 9x. We stop here, 4x plus 9x does give us 13x. So we know that 3 and 2 work. So our answer is going to be negative. Remember, we always need to have that negative out there. So negative, and then 2x plus 3 and 3x plus 2. And that is our final answer.